Welcome to The Woman Condemned, where we talk about women on death row and those serving life. I'm Kelly, I'm an author, and I've been a liaison to death row women for the past 16 years. This is where I tell you my experiences with them. I had a brief relationship with Cynthia a few thousand years ago, and this is some of the things I learned from her. Cynthia Coffman was born Cynthia Lynn Haskins, and her life started out pretty cushy as far as serial killers go. Her parents loved her, but they divorced when she was 3. Her mom left her with some relatives for a few months when she was 6, so she could pursue a singing career. When that didn't work out and she went back, things were never the same with Cyndi, who felt abandoned and betrayed. She misbehaved a lot and was very rebellious, even after she was enrolled in a strict Catholic school. She was a married mom by age 18, and a year and a half later, she decided family life did not sit well with her, and she took off with a girlfriend headed to Arizona with plans to start a new life and send for her son later. She got a job waiting tables and a boyfriend soon after. She moved in with him, but then moved right back out when they were evicted for loud parties. And Cyndi was wild. She was a partier. Writing in like 2005. 2005. She told me right away that she didn't like people. She said, I didn't think she was going to write me back because I wrote to her and it was like months and I didn't hear anything. And then finally she wrote to me and she said she didn't like people and she didn't usually return mail, but she would give me a chance because she liked what I had to say. So we wrote for a good about 3 years. It ended badly, but at first we talked mostly about TV. We both watched Big Brother and Survivor, so we would talk about that. I would always root for the sweet people, and she would always root for the jerks and the deceiving people, liars, and we would clash on that. And what else did she like? Oh, I saw the movie Coyote Ugly, and I wrote to tell her about it, and she was so excited. Everything was in big capital letters, and then when she called, that's the first thing I heard. It was, tell me all about it. Well, then in one letter she told me, she said that was the kind of jobs that she used to have, and she worked in a whole lot of places like that and missed it so much. She said that that's where her nickname Sinful Cyndi got used the most, was when she was a cocktail waitress. She said there was good money in it and she didn't mind doing it, and she'd rather do that than have a desk job. Cyndi's wild lifestyle got her and her boyfriend arrested in April of '96 when she pulled a gun on some guys for harassing her boyfriend for money he owed them. She managed to get out of it without much more than a slap on the wrist, but her boyfriend spent some time in jail, and it was while visiting him that she met his cellmate, James Marlow. James had heard plenty of stories about what a sexy hellcat Cyndi was from her boyfriend. So when he was released a little bit earlier, he showed up on her doorstep. Sparks flew, and then the real fire started. His relatives described him as a sweet boy who played well with others, but somewhere along the line, things changed. By the time he crossed paths with Cynthia, he was a hardened felon, fresh out of Folsom, where he'd earned the nickname the Folsom Wolf. James came from a less cushy upbringing than Cyndi. He was raised by his prostitute, drug addict mother, who often engaged him in sexual activity from a very early age. So after that, they were just kind of together. They beat around the Badlands together, doing meth, hanging out with friends, and pulling the occasional robbery for their income. James was some kind of half-ass discount hitman, and Cyndi was into it. She loved it. Eventually, it was decided that they needed a bigger haul and that someone at an ATM would most likely have it. They spotted Karina Novus as she ran her after-work errands. They grabbed her near the Redlands Mall and took her to a friend's house, a Richard Drinkhouse. They told Drinkhouse they wanted to use his bedroom to brutalize Karina into giving them her banking information. Drinkhouse made no attempt to save her, claiming he was afraid of Marlow. Although some court records do say he attempted to leave through the front door, Cynthia saw him, called James, and he asked Drinkhouse where was he going. At that point, he sat back down. Cynthia and James abused and tortured her until she coughed up some numbers. Drinkhouse later told police that he heard the shower running, and 15 minutes later, Karina came out with a gag and handcuffs, flanked by Cynthia and James. All three were wet with wet hair. Thinking they had taken all they could from her, they took Karina to a remote vineyard, strangled her, and left her in a shallow grave. She gave them the wrong pin, however, so they went to her home and stole an answering machine and some other electronics, money, and other valuables. On November 12, 1986, Linnell Murray never returned home from work at the Huntington Beach Mall. Her boyfriend showed up at 7 p.m. to pick her up, but found the store ransacked and Linnell gone. Trial evidence later revealed Cynthia and James had kidnapped her and rented a hotel room with her credit card. An employee entered later and found Linnell's body. She'd been strangled in the hotel bathroom. In the meantime, Cyndi had caused a scene at Taco Bell, and when employees found ID for James and Cyndi in the garbage along with Karina's, they called police, and things started to add up. The duplicitous duo continued to rack up charges on Linnell's card until police were able to track them down with surveillance video. The two were caught on camera using Linnell's card. They just had an argument that ended with James cutting all Cyndi's hair off. She's seen freshly shorn in the video. The police finally caught up with them, walking down the road in frigid temperatures in the middle of the night, Cyndi in a bathing suit. They were whacked out of their mind on meth. And it ended in death row. There is so much more to this case. The things they did to those women were so horrific. You'll need to research it yourself to believe it. James Marlow wrote a book in 2012. It's titled, I Wish You Were Never Born, Confessions of a Serial Killer. But it's $5 and I did not buy it. Give it a Google. You can find it. So that's the sad, sick story of Sinful Cyndi, who's still sitting on death row in California. Thank you so much for joining me at The Woman Condemned. See you next time. And if you have a minute, can you give me